The pain of modern life is not just physical or economic. It's spiritual and emotional, rooted in lost purpose and voice. In today's fast-paced, results-driven world, many people are outwardly busy but inwardly empty. They go through the motions of work, relationships, and responsibilities without a sense of meaning or connection. They feel like cogs in a machine, measured only by metrics, deadlines, and performance reviews. The daily grind becomes a cycle of burnout, disengagement, and quiet resignation. Stephen Covey identifies this as a form of deep personal and organizational pain, a symptom of a society that has neglected the inner life in pursuit of surface-level efficiency. This pain manifests in various forms. Employees show up physically but check out emotionally. Leaders issue commands but fail to inspire. Parents provide but do not connect. Students memorize facts but lack purpose. Despite the explosion of technology, communication, and convenience, there is a growing sense of alienation, anxiety, and depression. People may be surrounded by noise, but they feel unheard. They may be part of teams, but they feel alone. They may be praised for performance, but they don't feel seen for who they are. Beneath the surface of social smiles and professional titles lies a hunger for authenticity, purpose, and meaning. In organizations, this pain imposes shows I, up B, in the L the E to fort of LOW morale, poor collaboration, toxic work cultures, and high turnover. People feel undervalued, underutilized, and uninspired. They are often reduced to job descriptions and KPI, rather than being engaged as full human beings with potential, creativity, and heart. Leaders may push for results, but when people are treated like things, they resist with passive compliance or active sabotage. The result is a widening gap between what people are capable of and what they actually deliver. This gap is not due to a lack of skill. It is due to a lack of spirit. Covey argues that the root of this widespread pain is the suppression of voice. Voice represents the unique personal significance each person possesses, their natural talents, passions, conscience, and sense of calling. When people are unable to express their voice, when their ideas are dismissed, when their values are ignored, or when their work lacks purpose, it creates an ache that no amount of money or comfort can cure. People long to contribute meaningfully, to be part of something larger than themselves, and to be recognized not just for what they do, but for who they are. The same dynamic exists at the organizational level. Institutions, like individuals, also have a voice. Organizations with clear values, compelling missions, and empowering cultures can thrive and inspire. But those that lose their voice, driven only by profits, competition, and hierarchy, fall into dysfunction. They become rigid, reactive, and resistant to change. They fail to tap into the deeper motivations of their people, and as a result, they fail to innovate, adapt, or lead with vision. Greatness comes from discovering your unique voice and helping others discover theirs. In the chaos of modern life, many chase after success, but miss out on significance. They focus on doing more, faster, better without ever asking why. Stephen Covey introduces the concept of voice as the answer to this inner void. Voice is not just about self-expression or communication. It is the fusion of one's talents, passions, conscience, and the need in the world that you are uniquely suited to meet. It is the calling that ignites your spirit and aligns your actions with your deepest values. When a person finds their voice, they come alive, not only professionally, but personally and spiritually. Voice is what transforms effectiveness into greatness. While effectiveness helps you get results, greatness is about contribution, legacy, and living with meaning. Effectiveness is about doing things right. Greatness is about doing the right things. Covey emphasizes that everyone has a voice. It's not reserved for a few gifted individuals. But many people never discover it because they are trapped in systems, mindsets, or fears that prevent them from exploring their true potential. They live their lives reacting to expectations, traditions, or the opinions of others, rather than responding to the quiet, powerful call within. This internal disconnect is the reason why so many people feel unfulfilled despite their achievements. Discovering your voice requires introspection and courage. It means listening to your conscience, reflecting on your gifts, and being honest about what moves your soul. It also means paying attention to what the world needs and where you can make the most meaningful difference. When these elements align, you find a kind of energy and clarity that can't be manufactured through external rewards. Your work becomes a form of service, your life becomes a mission, and your actions begin to resonate with a power that influences others, not by command, but by inspiration. But the eighth habit goes beyond personal fulfillment. Covey stresses that real greatness lies not only in finding your voice, but also in helping others find theirs. This is the essence of true leadership, not control, not charisma, not title, but the ability to awaken potential in others. It means seeing people not just as employees, students, or followers, but as whole human beings with minds, hearts, bodies, and spirits. It means creating environments where people feel safe to express themselves, take initiative, and grow. It requires leaders to shift from managing people to mentoring them, from driving results to developing character. Helping others find their voice also transforms relationships. It replaces judgment with understanding and competition with collaboration. In families, it fosters trust and connection. In organizations, it unleashes creativity and ownership. In communities, it builds cohesion and collective purpose. When individuals are empowered to act from their voice, they become agents of change, not just responders to circumstance. They take initiative, they take responsibility, and they inspire those around them to do the same. This principle also applies to society at large. The greatest movements in history, those that changed cultures and reshaped destinies, were not driven by systems, but by people who found their voice and helped others do the same. People like Gandhi, Martin Luther King Jr., and Nelson Mandela did not merely fight injustice, they ignited voices. They reminded humanity of its conscience. They lifted others by standing in their truth. Covey's message is that this kind of greatness is not confined to heroes or historical figures. It is available to anyone who is willing to listen inward, live with purpose, and lead with heart. In the end, greatness is not about status, fame, or accumulation. It is about living authentically, lifting others, and aligning your work with your soul. It is about creating a legacy not just of success, but of significance. And it begins the moment you decide to find your voice and help others find theirs. True leadership is not about position, but about moral authority and empowering others. Stephen Covey challenges the traditional notion of leadership as something tied to a title, role, or position of power. Instead, he emphasizes that leadership is a choice, a way of being, thinking, and serving that anyone can adopt regardless of their formal role. In the 21st century knowledge economy, where creativity, initiative, and engagement are essential, the old model of command and Control leadership is not only outdated, it is harmful. What matters now is not authority by position, but authority earned through trust, character, and the ability to inspire. Moral authority is the foundation of this kind of leadership. It comes from integrity, humility, courage, and consistency between words and action. People follow those they trust, not those they fear. They are moved by authenticity, not by intimidation. When a leader speaks from principle and acts with empathy, they earn influence that far outweighs their formal title. Covey argues that this kind of leadership cannot be faked. It is cultivated over time through the quiet decisions a person makes daily, how they treat others, how they respond under pressure, and how committed they are to their values when no one is watching. True leadership is also about vision and service. A real leader sees what others do not see. They identify potential before it is proven. They see talent where others see limitation. They communicate a vision that lifts people beyond survival to significance. But vision alone is not enough. It must be matched with action, especially the action of empowering others. Empowerment means giving people the space, tools, trust, and encouragement they need to take initiative and grow. It means letting go of control and replacing it with collaboration. It means listening more than commanding, guiding more than directing. Many people believe they need to be in charge to lead. Covey refutes this by showing that leadership begins the moment you decide to take responsibility for your influence. A janitor who uplifts the spirit of a school through kindness and pride in their work is leading. A student who stands up for others in the face of bullying is leading. A team member who supports a colleague, asks thoughtful questions, and keeps the group aligned with its values is leading. Leadership, in this sense, is not about managing others. It's about managing yourself in a way that makes others better. Organizations that cultivate this kind of leadership at every level create cultures of trust, innovation, and excellence. They don't rely on a few powerful individuals at the top. They tap into the voice and capability of everyone. Covey emphasizes that such organizations are not just more productive, they are more human. They don't see people as costs to be controlled, but as contributors to be inspired. This shift in mindset requires a fundamental rethinking of what leadership is. It means measuring success not just by output or profits, but by the growth and empowerment of people. This kind of leadership also matters in families, communities, and social systems. Parents who listen, guide, and model values for their children are exercising moral authority. Community members who volunteer, organize, and advocate for justice are leading without titles. Leadership is not the domain of the elite. It is the birthright of every human being. It begins when a person decides to live by principle, act with courage, and make others feel seen, heard, and valued. Ultimately, the eighth habit invites people to lead from within, to stop waiting for permission, position, or applause, and instead to rise with integrity and influence. It calls for a new generation of leaders who empower rather than control, who serve rather than dominate, and who lead with conscience, not ego. This is the kind of leadership the world is starving for, not flashy, loud, or self-centered, but quiet, consistent, and transformative. The whole person paradigm, mind, body, heart, and spirit, must be engaged for lasting fulfillment. Stephen Covey argues that most personal and organizational struggles stem from a fragmented view of the human being. In many systems, people are treated as if they are only one, dimensional, valued for their labor body, measured by performance mind, but rarely acknowledged for their emotions, heart or inner purpose, spirit. This reductionist approach leads to dissatisfaction, burnout, and disengagement because it ignores the wholeness of human nature. Covey's whole person paradigm asserts that people cannot thrive unless all four dimensions are respected, developed, and harmonized. The mind represents our ability to think, reason, learn, and create. It drives intellectual engagement, problem solving, and innovation. When the mind is neglected, people feel mentally dull, unchallenged, or stuck in repetitive routines. But when it is stimulated through growth, learning, and meaningful challenges, people come alive intellectually. Organizations that encourage continuous learning, critical thinking, and creativity tap into this power of the mind and see improvements in adaptability and performance. The body represents our physical well-being, our health, energy, and capacity to act. It involves habits of discipline, exercise, rest, and self-care. Many people ignore this dimension in pursuit of work or external success, leading to chronic fatigue, illness, or emotional imbalance. Covey insists that honoring the body is not a luxury but a necessity. Leaders who model balance and promote wellness create cultures of sustainability and endurance rather than stress and depletion. A healthy body fuels resilience and performance in all other areas. The heart represents our capacity to feel, connect, and build relationships. It is the center of empathy, loyalty, trust, and emotional intelligence. In workplaces and homes alike, people crave emotional connection, being understood, respected, and valued. When the heart is ignored, interactions become mechanical and teams become dysfunctional. But when the heart is nurtured, people collaborate more effectively, show greater commitment, and build bonds that endure pressure. Emotional intelligence is now widely recognized as more important than IQ in leadership, and Covey's model affirms that lasting influence comes from relationships built on trust and compassion. The spirit represents our conscience, purpose, values, and inner drive for meaning. It is the most often neglected but most vital part of being human. The spirit is what moves a person to sacrifice, to serve, to persevere for something larger than themselves. It is what fuels courage, hope, and integrity. Without the spirit, people lose direction and fall into despair or cynicism. Organizations that focus solely on profits or productivity while ignoring purpose create soulless environments. But those that cultivate a mission-driven culture unlock deep motivation and loyalty. When people know that their work matters and aligns with their values, they engage with far greater passion. Covey argues that these four dimensions are interconnected. You cannot neglect the body and expect peak mental performance. You cannot shut down the heart and expect meaningful relationships. You cannot silence the spirit and expect sustained motivation. Personal development requires an integrated approach that respects all four areas. Likewise, great leadership requires seeing others as whole people, not just as roles or functions, but as complex beings with minds to challenge, bodies to care for, hearts to connect with, and spirits to honor. This paradigm also reshapes how leaders build teams and organizations. It leads to practices that invest in people holistically through professional development, mind, wellness initiatives, body, inclusive culture, heart, and shared mission spirit. It challenges managers to shift from control to care, from hierarchy to empowerment, and from short-term gains to long-term growth. Covey's whole person paradigm offers a framework not only for personal greatness, but for ethical, sustainable, and deeply human leadership. Aligning systems with values is essential to unleashing human potential in organizations. Stephen Covey emphasizes that even the best individuals will struggle to thrive in an environment where the systems, processes, and structures work against core principles. Many organizations say they believe in trust, empowerment, innovation, and integrity, yet operate with systems based on control, suspicion, and fear. This contradiction creates confusion, resentment, and disengagement. People begin to sense the hypocrisy, and even if the words on the wall say people are our greatest asset, the reality of how they're treated reveals a different truth. Covey argues that for any organization to truly unlock the greatness of its people, its internal systems must reflect and reinforce its stated values. When systems are misaligned, people experience what Covey calls organizational schizophrenia. This occurs when a company talks about empowerment but enforces micromanagement, when it encourages innovation but punishes mistakes, when it promotes teamwork but rewards individual competition. These mixed signals send a message louder than any corporate slogan, that values are merely cosmetic. This gap between aspiration and operation is one of the biggest causes of frustration in the modern workplace. Talented people begin to feel stifled, creativity withers, and cynicism sets in. Over time, the culture becomes one of survival rather than growth. Alignment, on the other hand, means that the systems how people are hired, trained, evaluated, rewarded, and promoted are consistent with the organization's purpose and principles. If an organization claims to value collaboration, its performance metrics must include team outcomes, not just individual achievements. If it claims to value continuous learning, it must invest in education, mentoring, and knowledge sharing. If it claims to value trust, it must replace surveillance-based management with open communication and accountability. Alignment means closing the gap between what is preached and what is practiced. Covey insists that alignment is not about creating perfect systems. It's about building systems that are consciously designed to support the growth and empowerment of people. This is particularly crucial in the knowledge worker age, where success depends on people's ability to think creatively, act independently, and align their work with a shared vision. In such an environment, control-based systems are counterproductive. They suppress the very human traits that are needed most. Aligned systems, by contrast, create freedom within a framework, clear expectations, shared goals, and enough space for people to bring their full selves to their work. Leaders play a critical role in fostering this alignment. They must continually assess whether their practices reflect their values and whether the systems they oversee are helping or hindering human potential. Covey encourages leaders to ask hard questions. Do our structures encourage initiative? Do our rewards support long-term thinking? Do our communication systems promote transparency? Are we creating a culture where people feel safe to speak up, take risks, and grow? These questions are not just ethical, they are strategic. Misalignment creates waste, turnover, and lost opportunities. Alignment builds trust, engagement, and collective momentum. Moreover, aligned systems go beyond HR policies and performance evaluations. They include the data, habits, meeting structures, and interpersonal dynamics that define how work gets done. A culture of alignment is one where integrity flows through every level, not only in the mission statement, but in how people are treated during times of change, stress, or failure. It's not just about efficiency. It's about creating a space where people feel respected, supported, and inspired to give their best. Covey's message is clear. No matter how talented or visionary the leaders may be, They will not succeed in building greatness if the systems around them send the opposite message. Organizational greatness requires systemic coherence. When an organization's voice, its mission, values, and vision is consistently echoed in its daily operations, people don't just comply, they commit. They see the organization not just as a job, but as a meaningful platform for their own voice, growth, and contribution. The eighth habit calls for a shift from control and compliance to trust and inspiration. In the industrial era mindset, organizations operated on the assumption that workers needed to be managed, monitored, and directed. This model was built for efficiency, not for empowerment. It worked well in environments where routine and predictability were essential. However, in today's knowledge-based, fast-changing world, this approach has become a barrier to human potential. Stephen Covey explains that people no longer want to be controlled. They want to be trusted. They no longer respond to fear or hierarchy. They respond to purpose, respect, and vision. The eighth habit is a call to lead not with force, but with inspiration rooted in trust. This shift is not simply philosophical. It is deeply practical. Control-based leadership may achieve compliance, but it rarely achieves commitment. When people are treated like cogs in a machine, they give the minimum effort required. They follow instructions but withhold their creativity, energy, and passion. They avoid mistakes but also avoid innovation. They protect themselves rather than challenge the status quo. Covey argues that the cost of this mindset is immense. Organizations lose not only productivity, but also the emotional and intellectual engagement that drives long-term excellence. Trust, on the other hand, unlocks potential. When people feel trusted, they take initiative. They own their work, offer new ideas, and support one another more openly. Trust creates psychological safety, the sense that it's okay to make mistakes, speak up, or take risks without fear of punishment or shame. In environments of trust, people are not driven by pressure. They are fueled by belief in what they're doing and who they're doing it with. Covey stresses that trust is not given blindly. It is built intentionally through integrity, consistency, transparency, and respect. Inspiration is the next level beyond trust. It is the ability to lift people's eyes above the daily grind and remind them of their deeper purpose. Inspirational leaders connect work with meaning. They don't just set goals, they paint a picture of what the future could be. They help people see the significance of their role in something larger than themselves. Such leaders don't manipulate, they ignite. They don't dominate, they empower. Their authority comes not from position, but from personal credibility and alignment with principle. Covey insists that this form of leadership is not soft, it is powerful. It drives real results because it engages the whole person. Making this shift requires leaders to reevaluate how they define their role. Are they there to direct or to develop? To manage or to mentor? To oversee or to uplift? Covey calls for leaders to act as models of what they expect from others. If they want trust, they must be trustworthy. If they want initiative, they must give autonomy. If they want innovation, they must allow space for mistakes. If they want loyalty, they must show respect. This change in mindset transforms leadership from a role of control to a mission of influence. The shift also demands structural and cultural transformation. Systems and policies must reflect trust-based leadership. Performance reviews must go beyond metrics to include values and contributions. Meetings must become spaces for dialogue, not just directives. Incentives must reward collaboration and integrity, not just short-term gains. Most importantly, The organizational culture must be one where voice is encouraged, listened to, and acted upon. The eighth habit ultimately recognizes that human beings are not tools. They are souls with potential. Control may produce predictable outcomes, but it stifles greatness. Trust and inspiration, by contrast, unleash energy, ownership, and purpose. Covey presents this shift as both a moral imperative and a strategic advantage. In a world where adaptability, creativity, and commitment are essential, the organizations and leaders that inspire trust will lead the future, not by